Perhaps you don't know what "Let's Go Brandon" means. It's a meme. A meme meant to express anger and disdain for the president, Joe Biden. A lot of people are upset over the state of the economy, the state of COVID, and they feel that Joe Biden's policies have caused much of our ongoing strife. And it's true. It is Joe Biden and the Democrats that are causing much of this strife. Now, don't get me wrong, Republicans play a role in our leadership as well. But many of Joe Biden's policies have directly led to this. And I'll just give you a quick example because this video is not about policy. But people are upset and Joe Biden's approval rating is tanking. Joe Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline. This resulted in people speculating that there would be limited supply of fossil fuels driving the price up. This resulted in high gas prices. It results in inflation. We have the mass printing of money. We have labor shortages. We have trucking shortages. We have vaccine mandates exacerbating the trucking shortage. So yes, it very much is Joe Biden's policies in many ways. And regular people know this, which brings us to Let's Go Brandon. Not just the number one song on iTunes, but the number two song by a different artist and the number three song. Currently, one version of Let's Go Brandon is sitting at number 45 on the Billboard Hot 100. I'm pretty sure it's the Hot 100. I'll pull up the stats to make sure. But this means that not only is the song going viral in terms of people downloading it, but Billboard charts are like legit popularity. Now there are many leftists who are quite perturbed by this. They're upset. You see, Adele's great, by the way. I think she makes great music. She was number one for a long time, for like 10 days. And then Let's Go Brandon emerged, a song basically saying Joe Biden is not good, to put it mildly. And this displaced Adele to number two. Then another version of Let's Go Brandon reached number two, putting Adele at number three. And then an extended version of the same song is now number three as well, putting Adele at number four. Now, this is amazing. For those that aren't familiar with what this meme means, there were a bunch of people chanting F Joe Biden at a NASCAR event. A reporter, seemingly trying to downplay what was going on, said, they're chanting Let's Go Brandon. From there, the meme erupted. Now, a lot of people have criticized this, saying, don't use that meme because no one knows what it means. Sorry, those people are wrong. Memes are one of the most effective and powerful ways to spread a message. If the message was F Joe Biden, how far would that really go? Now, to be fair, people were chanting it at sporting events. Regular people. These are not conservative events. It's regular people. Among independent voters, Joe Biden's approval rating has dropped to 25%. It is brutal. But then something happened. People started chanting Let's Go Brandon instead. Several conservatives said it was a bad idea because if no one knows what it means, you're not conveying anything. But this is proof they were wrong. F Joe Biden would not reach number one. I mean, it might, but it doesn't have any staying power. Yeah, I get it. People are going to say it. Interestingly, though, there is another song called F Donald Trump. Fascinating. It did reach number one on iTunes November 7th, 2020, even though the song was released, I believe, in 2016. But it didn't get that high on the iTunes charts. And I think what we're seeing now is that the anger towards Joe Biden is substantially worse than the anger towards Donald Trump. And maybe it's because when it came to Donald Trump, people were protesting him for perceived slights. When it comes to Joe Biden, people are protesting over what's actually going on. Under Donald Trump, the economy was doing great. People just didn't like the guy. Under Joe Biden, people don't like the guy and everything's burning to the ground. Well, let's take a look at this news. And I want to go through the history of these protest songs, talk a bit about the tit for tat we've seen in the past few years, show you FDT. That's the song they wrote about Donald Trump not getting anywhere near as popular as Let's Go Brandon. Let's talk about what the left said about F Donald Trump, cheering for it. And now they're outraged at Let's Go Brandon. Because these journalists and media can't handle that they're being criticized. Look, I think F Donald Trump's actually a good song. I genuinely mean that. I didn't complain about it. I'm not going to cry about it, but it's funny to see them and these other bands that used to be anti-establishment just being total establishment. Let's get to the news. But before we do, head over to timcast.com, become a member to get access to exclusive members only content. We've got shows from Cast Castle, Tales from the Inverted World, and the Timcast IRL podcast. Many people you know and love. We got interviews with Alex Jones and Steve Bannon, Alan West. Check that out. Be a member. And as a member, you're supporting our fierce and independent journalism and helping us create new shows and build culture. New merch coming soon, and we greatly appreciate your support. But don't forget to like this video right now. Smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share this URL. Share the URL to this video right now, wherever you can. Let's get into the news. I have the website. You've already seen it. popvortex.com. Music charts. iTunes top 10 song charts. Number 1, Let's Go Brandon, featuring Tyson James and Chandler Crump by Bryson Gray. Number 2, Let's Go Brandon by Loza Alexander. And number 3, Let's Go Brandon extended version by Loza Alexander. Number 4 is Easy on Me by Adele. Now here's where it gets even more fun. Number 5 is Fancy Like by Walker Hayes. Number 6 is Shivers by Ed Sheeran. Seems to make sense. Then we have this Cold Heart, PNAU remix by Elton John and Dua Lipa. Wow. And then number 8, Let's Go Brandon again, Loza Alexander remix by God's Child. Let's Go Brandon has taken 4 positions on the iTunes top 10. 1, 2, 3, and 8. Wow. This is something truly amazing. It is so powerful that what do we get? YouTube deleted rapper's Let's Go Brandon song claiming medical misinformation. This is Bryson Gray. He says YouTube has banned Let's Go Brandon song from YouTube due to medical misinformation. What medical misinformation is in the song? Think about how crazy that is. Bryson Gray's Let's Go Brandon is number 1 on iTunes. Number 1. And YouTube deleted it. Yo, I can pull up a bunch of music on YouTube with deeply offensive words. YouTube doesn't care. In fact, Spotify has some pretty offensive songs on there. Back, old school hip hop from the 80s, man. I'm not going to name the song, but a very disparaging song towards trans people, and Spotify doesn't seem to care. Spotify, I believe, is owned by Alphabet, Google company, but, whatever. You see how the game is played? When it comes to complaining about Democrats, boy, are they desperate to purge this stuff. The number 1, 2, 3, and 8 song, and YouTube took it down. Fox News says, Gray said that initially the lyric version of the video was banned, but then the actual music video was taken down. YouTube's tech support responded to a tweet from Gray and said they were looking into the matter. Quote, jumping in, we're passing this along to the right team for a re-review, YouTube said. We'll share updates once we hear back from them. Appreciate your patience. Gray told Fox News that he's not heard anything from YouTube about the re-review and the song is still banned. Why is the most censored rapper in the country someone that doesn't even curse in his songs? Gray told Fox News. Why can you rap about murder, adult relations, and drugs, but when I rap about questioning the government, I get banned? Is this still America? The song takes multiple shots at Biden regarding his chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal, cognitive ability, and handling of COVID. They say the song reached the 4th spot on iTunes list of rap songs. Yeah, but right now, it's even higher than that. Let me show you the response from any of these leftists. Showbiz 411. Adele booming at radio, but temporarily knocked off iTunes top spot by moronic anti-Biden song. Aw, are they going to cry? This is from 2 days ago. It's funny. Adele's Easy on Me is booming away at radio. The single has been added to the largest number of radio stations in existence and getting played more than any other record by the hour. This is all according to Mediabase, which tracks songs played at stations. In the meantime, Easy on Me was knocked off its perch at number 1 on iTunes after 10 straight days. The temporary displacer is a moronic single called Let's Go Brandon by Bryson Gray Tyson. An anti-Biden record for anti-vaxxers. Idiots are pushing this piece of crap up the iTunes chart, but no one in their right mind would spend money on it. It's not a song or a record. It's just garbage. Adele will be back at number 1 by tomorrow. Oh, this poor guy. Not only is she not back at number 1, but she's down to number 4. Oh, they cry so hard about this. Live a little, grow up. When Rage on behalf of the machine was chanting, singing some of these songs, some of those who work forces are the same who burn crosses. I didn't cry about it. In fact, Tony Hawk puts these songs in his video games. You've got that one song that Public Enemy did with I think Pantera. No, Anthrax. Was it Anthrax? I think it was Anthrax. Yeah, what song was that? I can't remember the name of the song, but they got some offensive lyrics in this music. They put it in records. You know, when Gen Xers were aging and starting to take over, man, they were totally fine with being offensive. Now look at this. They're going to cry about it. All right, let's see what Slate has to say. The story behind Let's Go Brandon, the secretly vulgar chant suddenly beloved by Republicans. Ooh, anything but support. It's just pure disdain. They say it directly translates to F Joe Biden. They're not happy with it. Anyone watching could hear clearly that's not what the crowd was cheering. It's unclear whether Stavis misheard. This is the reporter. The phrase also reached the point of the life cycle of a meme where it has inspired a hit rap song. After originally going viral on TikTok, the video for Let's Go Brandon by Loza Alexander, which juxtaposes footage of the NASCAR interview with the rapper wearing red, has been viewed more than 2.6 million times on YouTube. So now you know, Posey was not cheering on someone named Brandon on the House floor this week. The good news, apparently politicians still have enough decency not to say F Joe Biden in the halls of Congress. The bad news, what they're saying instead may be even more embarrassing. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed. Wait a minute. What's this from Slate? What is this? Could anti-Trump Americans make F Donald Trump the #1 song in the country? Here's how the United States could have its own God Save the Queen moment. The left is not punk rock. Anybody doing punk rock espousing pro-Amazon, Walmarts, and corporate messaging is not punk rock. Sorry. It's just not reality. You want to have a God Save the Queen moment? We're having it right now with Let's Go Brandon, not with F Donald Trump. Now, I don't believe the same people wrote these stories. The first story was by Heather Schwedel, and the old story about F. Donald Trump is Jack Hamilton, Chris Molenfee, and Slate Video. It's from back in 2017. I love it. Could FDT be the big song? In it, they say, in the May of 1977, a punk quartet from London called the Sex Pistols released a single titled God Save the Queen. The song's name was plagiarized from the British national anthem, and the record released to coincide with Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee, an exercise in monarchic pageantry conducted against a backdrop of turmoil. The previous year in England had seen convulsions of police violence, paramilitary terror, labor strife, and insurgent fascism. God Save the Queen, she ain't no human being, snarled 21-year-old Johnny Rotten. There is no future in England's dreaming. Rotten's notoriously haphazard band never sounded better. A lean, gnashing machine that roared all the way through Rotten's instantly iconic outro. No future, no future, no future for you. The BBC and the Independent Broadcasting Authority banned the single from the radio and television immediately. But the bumbling censorship only amplified the song's message of gleeful, paranoid anti-authoritarianism. God Save the Queen hit #1 on the NME charts and #2 on BBC's official UK singles chart, prompting speculation that it was officially kept out of the latter's top spot by establishment pressures. By buying and listening to a record that authorities didn't want them to hear, the Pistols fans and fellow travelers made God Save the Queen the biggest hit in England, despite the song being barred from national airwaves. Good writing, Slate. Was F. Donald Trump censored or banned or shut down? No. Did it reach the top spot on iTunes? It did. Let's Go Brandon is being censored. Let's Go Brandon is being disparaged by the establishment and still dominating. If anybody is having a God Save the Queen moment, it's Bryson Gray and it's Loza Alexander. Sorry, it wasn't F. Donald Trump. In late March, as Donald Trump was racking up GOP primary wins, blah, 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 they go on to say it would take a lot for FDT to hit #1 as people wanted. And you know what? Guess what? I don't believe it actually did. They said, what would it take to send F. Donald Trump to #1? Boy, they really wanted that to happen. They say, though this is a topic of some dispute these days, our government is still a system of checks and balances, and so is the Billboard Hot 100. And like passing meaningful healthcare reform, getting a song to #1 on that chart is hard. 3 major elements factor into the Hot 100: airplay, sales, and streaming. The chart is an average of these 3 pools of data. If you wish to analogize the Hot 100 to the federal government, you can think, okay, we get it. Unfortunately for F. Donald Trump, that's probably impossible because of radio. Given the lack of significant airplay for a single that is foul-mouthed, nearly a year old and not being actively promoted to the radio right now, one leg of the Billboard stool is effectively missing for YG and Nipsey. The pirate radio play, Jack notes, above is microscopic by Billboard standards. It's so sad. Well, over at F. Donald Trump, the song, we can see that it was released in 2016 and it reached U.S. bubbling under Hot 100 singles Billboard, #10, and the U.S. Hot R&B hip hop songs, #50. I mean, that's still pretty good. How about Let's Go Brandon? Let's Go Brandon song by American rapper Loza Alexander is an anti-Biden hip hop rap song based on the Let's Go Brandon chants and memes. U.S. Billboard Hot 100, peak position number 45. There it is. Now, that's not number one. It's certainly better than F. Donald Trump. I'm impressed. Now, I haven't looked up Bryson Gray's. I wonder if we can we'll just jump over and see if we can pull up the song for, they say soon after by Loza Alexander. They say a third song by Bryson Gray reached the Apple Music chart. I'm wondering about Billboard Hot 100. I don't have it pulled up. But if Bryson Gray is number one on iTunes right now, maybe, just maybe, he's doing really well. The reason I think Loza Alexander is doing better on the Billboard Hot 100 is because number 2 and 3 are both Loza Alexander. And number 8 is also Loza Alexander. What does that mean? Well, when it comes to sales, downloads, plays, radio, etc., these are being split up. If you were to combine all these into, say, one song, if there's only one version of it, it'd probably be number 1. Bryson Gray would probably be number 2. But I'm not so sure these guys are all that upset about it. They're probably extremely happy where we're at. But let me just stress again. Let's Go Brandon, the song by Loza Alexander, is Billboard Hot 100 number 45. That's the best of the best. Those other rankings are good on Billboard for the F. Donald Trump song, which I like as a song. But this is just way better. And you know what it is? It's really funny to see this because conservatives are just so much more family friendly. F Donald Trump. That's the lyric. You don't got to be so blunt. Put a little finesse in that. Let's Go Brandon is way better. To the people who say Let's Go Brandon is bad because people don't get it, now there's going to be a lot of people on iTunes and they're going to see Let's Go Brandon and be like, what's this song? And they're going to play it. And they're going to be like, yo, and the meme is going to move fast. Other people are going to see the success and be like, dude, I want to get in on this. And we're going to see a wave of way more Let's Go Brandon songs. I think there's actually several. People are going to see that. It's going to become popular culture. It is popular culture. I mean, it's number 1, 2, 3, and 8 on the iTunes top 10. And so you're going to get a bunch of people being like, is this what people like? And the followers will follow. And they'll say, I don't like Biden. That's why it's so powerful. If it just said F Joe Biden, people wouldn't find that funny. They wouldn't buy the song. They wouldn't promote it. This is power. Now, let me go back to that story about God Save the Queen. This is so pathetic. They're talking about Johnny Rotten and how F Donald Trump, if it became number 1, it would be a God Save the Queen moment. Sorry. Now, it did reach number 1 in November 7th, 2020 on iTunes. That's great. I mean, good for them. I mean that legitimately. Like, by all means, protest song, cool, do it to it. But they want to prop up Johnny Rotten for criticizing the establishment. Back then, let's talk about your real moment. Johnny Rotten blames wokeness for U.S. collapse, April 27th, 2021. This is the Johnny Rotten. The guy that they claimed was doing all these great things, saying anti-establishment, anti-fascist. Now they don't like the guy. Why? Because he's come out and said the leftists have become moral authoritarians. He says wokeness is the problem. Political correctness, all that bad stuff. They don't realize they're not cool. They're the baddies. What does it mean to be cool? You know what, man? When I go to a skate park and I see kids tagging Black Lives Matter, I just started laughing at them. I'm like, yo, you guys are like you're tagging Walmart corporate slogans. Like, how whack is that? Do you think that anti-establishment actors are going to be cheering on major corporations? Dude, if you're supporting all of this corporate BS, you are the establishment. Johnny Rotten still to this day is anti-establishment. I find it kind of funny. Now, Slate's kind of mad because we have this story right here. Republican congressman wears Let's Go Brandon mask into House chamber. South Carolina Rep. Jeff Duncan is the latest of several politicians to use the viral slogan. You see, I've got someone sent us mugs, thermoses. Not mugs, thermoses. And 2 of them say, Let's Go Brandon. It's family friendly. It's a meme. It is power. It is a way to rapidly convey an idea. It's almost like a secret handshake. You know why this works? Memes are supposed to be somewhat coded. That's why I'm surprised people are like, don't say Let's Go Brandon. It confuses people. Wrong. A meme. It's a ball of energy. It is a condensed idea. When Trump says Lil Marco, when he would say that on stage, he was saying so much. When he said Crooked Hillary, he was saying so much. He was invoking every story you've ever heard. It was a zip file for the mind. Let's Go Brandon can be the viral message that hits the number 1, 2, and 3 charts on iTunes. And people say, Let's Go Brandon. Hey, what does that mean? And then they get the message. Joe Biden is bad. His policies are bad. It's driving up gas prices, and the media is lying to you. There's a fact check that USA Today, Joe Biden's policies are not driving up gas prices. High demand is. Lie. I'll say it very simply in the easiest way. When Biden shut down Keystone XL, that meant that incoming supply later this year and next year would go down, and even the year after that, as soon as it was up and running. It wasn't up and running, but this is how it works. If there's a projected supply, then people are like, okay, we know how much we're going to get. When Biden shut that down, when Biden banned fracking on federal land, I'm not saying I agree with fracking or anything like that. I'm just saying when he did that, people then said, we are going to be under supply later on. Speculators came in, started buying it up as much as they could, driving the price up for you. It's that simple. And then USA Today says, no, it's just because there's so much demand and limited supply. Oh, geez. Well, why is there limited supply? Could it be that Biden banned fracking on federal land? I know they weren't pulling immediately. It was a ban on future fracking. Could it be that he banned Keystone Pipeline? I know they weren't transporting the oil. Could it be that those would have alleviated low supply? Yes. And these media companies think people are stupid. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the aggregate for Joe Biden. President Biden job approval in the aggregate is down to 42.3 with disapproval up 0.98 at 52.8. It is remarkable how bad he's doing. CNN says Joe Biden's approval ratings are worse than every recent president except one at this stage. And that was Donald Trump. But isn't it funny that Donald Trump was being slammed in that song, F Donald Trump, before he was even president? It was released in 2016. The dude wasn't sworn in until January of 2017. They were complaining about what they thought he was and the things he said, not what he did. And then Donald Trump was still widely disapproved, even though we had a roaring economy. The media just would not stop. Joe Biden not only has a dismal and collapsing approval rating, but he also has regular people chanting, "Let's go, Brandon," songs coming out, hitting the top charts. And people get it. Take a look at this from Civics. Right now, they say, do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling his job as president? 38% approve, 53% disapprove. It's massive. And it's driven by one thing. I've shown you this many times, but we'll show you now, get the context. Joe Biden's approval among Democrats is at 79%. Even Democrats right now, 21% are like, yo. 9% of Democrats disapprove. 13% neither approve nor disapprove. I don't think those numbers add up properly, but sure, whatever. Among Republicans, it's fairly obvious. They've always disapproved. The funny thing is, they disapproved of Joe Biden at 90% when he got inaugurated, and now it's 95%. Like, who'd have thought Joe Biden could do worse among Republicans? But this collapse is driven almost exclusively by the independent voter. Take a look at this. 64% disapproval, 25% approval, 12% neither approve nor disapprove. It is absolutely abysmal for Joe Biden. And the independent is what counts. Now, many independents vote Democrat, many independents vote Republican. That's what you need to understand. When they poll independents, it's not like there's a large group of people who stand up and say, I'm actually an independent. It's mostly people who say, I'm an independent who always votes Democrat. And typically, my understanding is that independents kind of lean Democrat. There's a large group of independents who vote Republican. The Republican Party is smaller. But now you have people like Scott Pressler going out and registering Republicans to vote, and the Republican Party is starting to rival the Democratic Party. Democrats got way better ground game. That's a fact. But it's starting to shift. Now you have independent voters, who many are Democrats. They just don't identify that way, but they vote Democrat every time. I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. He's an independent, and he's far left. And they're souring on Joe Biden. It's time for these people to realize that Joe Biden is a failed president. He was bad from the get-go. He was a bad choice, and you sacrificed this country because you hated Donald Trump. The New York Post, liberals were losing the argument over critical race theory in schools. Time to call in the FBI. Biden has few options to combat surging gas prices as voters grow concerned about inflation. Biden's average approval rating drops to new low amid inflation, immigration worries. Wow. CRT. We got CRT. We got gas prices. We got inflation. We got immigration crisis. And there it is. Joe Biden's job. It's a bad job. And people get it. We got the story from Gallup. Congress approval lowest in 2021 as Democrats turn negative. Interesting. They say Americans' approval of the job Congress is doing slipped 6 points to 21%. It's lowest in 2021. Congressional approval nosedives among Democrats. Among Republicans, approval's at 5%. Among independents, it's at 22%. And among Democrats, it's at 33%. It all really does make sense. And this is really, really good news for all of us. Let me explain. The Republicans are trash. You get a small handful of Republicans who I think do a good job, but for the most part, they do nothing. So their approval should always be in the gutter. Republican voters, self-identified, do not like the Republican Party. Isn't that funny? Independent voters, approval of... I'm sorry. I'm confusing this. This is Republicans' view of Congress is down, not Republicans in Congress. It's U.S. Congress job approval by party ID. Still, my point stands. Republicans don't like the Republican Party. Democrats like the Democratic Party, and independents basically dislike everybody for obvious reasons. See how this translates. If a Republican is asked, what do you think about Congress? They're going to say they suck, because they're going to say the same thing about the Republican Party they would about the Democratic Party, except the Democrats are the Harlem Globetrotters and the Republicans are the Washington Generals. Independent voters, it makes sense, probably be like, it's all right, because they might lean a little more Democratic. But to see Democratic voters disapprove of Congress at a level dropping to 33% from 55% is actually huge. This means Democrats may be waking up to how awful the Democratic Party is. I find it truly fascinating. When I watch these segments from progressive YouTubers, I notice something. They don't use sources. I mean, sometimes they do. They typically don't. We only and always use sources, and they're NewsGuard certified. Got to get that Michael Hayden and Bill Gates opinion on whether or not these news sources are proven factual, right, or trustworthy, and then try to fact check them. But, you know, I see these stories, right? There's one story in Rolling Stone where it's like two organizers from January 6th spill the beans saying members of Congress were involved in the planning. And then you get your usual fare. You get people on the left being like, this is huge. There should be indictments. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Did you read the story? Because you know what the real story is? Rally organizers invited Republican congressmen to speak at a rally on January 6th. That's the news. Like Madison Cawthorn, like literally was on stage at the rally. Oh, you mean the Capitol riot? Oh, no. In the story cited by these lefties, the sources specifically say the Capitol was never a part of this. So why are they all running the story like it is? Because they don't read the news. They get secondhand commentary and just run with it. And it works, man. You know, I get it. They want to make money. They want to get clicks. They want to get traffic. It's a really funny thing, but you know, I'll say it. I said it before and I'll say it again. The left is a cult. They want to say that the Trump supporters on the right is a cult. And they're not wrong. There is a faction of cultist Trump supporters who are just like believing all this crazy crackpot conspiracy stuff. As I often say, no institutional power, not very large. But when you get someone like, I don't know, David Pakman, for instance, with 1.14 million subscribers, who repeatedly publishes misconstrued and incorrect information because he doesn't fact check any of it. And I'm not saying always, just a lot. And I'll say, look, there are things I get wrong, but I almost exclusively have a NewsGuard certified source before I ever opine on something. Like my position here is based on Gallup. I've got stories from Slate that I'm criticizing. I'm not just saying things I've heard in other places. When I hear things, I fact check them. When the Alec Baldwin tweet started to emerge where he was saying very violent things, I actually spent a half an hour digging through to verify the tweets were real because I'm not going to play those games. But David Pakman did a segment where he said there should be an investigation, and if evidence leads to, you know, that these people did coordinate the riot, then they should be charged. And it's like, bro, did you even read the story? No, it's not the first time. You know, David also did a segment where he played a clip from MSNBC where Chuck Todd laughed at Ted Cruz for believing Politico in New York Times reporting. Ted Cruz was asked if he believed that Ukraine meddled in the 2016 election. And Ted Cruz is like, the New York Times reported they did. And then they laugh. You can hear people at MSNBC laughing. And it's like, talk about how insane it is that the New York Times can come out with a story where it's like Ukrainian court rules that Ukrainians interfered in 2016 U.S. election. That Politico can come out with a report saying Ukraine scrambles after helping assist the Clintons in 2016. Then when you come out and say, hey, look at these stories, they laugh at you. And then David Pakman agrees with them and laughs as well. And I'm like, dude, if your position is that, the interference by Ukraine wasn't that big of a deal, I'm all down to hear about it. But if your position is that it didn't happen, even though it's been recorded by multiple sources and basically admitted to by Ukrainians, then you just live in fantasy world. If your position is that new evidence has emerged that members of Congress helped organize the January 6th insurrection, well, then you're completely wrong. And if I come out and say that's not true, how is that right wing? And therein lies the hilarity of the current situation we live in. When it comes to Wikipedia, for instance, I love bringing it up. They say, like, all of Tim Pool's videos support right-wing narratives, therefore he's right-wing. And it's like, have you ever considered that you're just wrong? Brian Stelter was like, Ron DeSantis is saying you should assume the media is lying because he's on an anti-media tirade. And Nicholas Sandman, one of the Covington kids, is like, howdy, on Twitter. Because they do lie. They lie all the time. I check the sources. I love using CNN. I love using mainstream news sources, MSNBC as sources, when I can verify what they're saying is true. Because then when it's like CNN says something, people are going to be like, well, you're making it up. And I'm like, bro, I'm reading CNN. Well, CNN's fake news. Then I also read Fox News. Fox is fake too. Then you go ahead and pick what sources you think are real. But I have sources every step of the way. And that's what's funny. Trump supporters get mad at me because I'm like, yo, Trump lost the election. I genuinely believe it. Is there fraud? Bill Barr says there was. He just says there wasn't that much. Fraud happens. A Republican got caught recently. And there have been several Democrats who have been caught as well. These things happen, but was it impactful enough? In my opinion, honestly, I don't know. I don't see it. And I know people are going to come at me and say, what about this, that, and otherwise, and these audits? Okay, do the audits and come out with new information, and we'll talk about it. People say, Tim, why didn't you talk about Arizona? It's like, dude, because we did. Because the information that came out, we talked about like 17 times on Timcast IRL and on this channel, and I don't know what else you want me to say about it. Like, I can pull up these stories, and I'm like, we talked about that 6 months ago. So what I genuinely think happened is that the Democrats changed the rules in a shadow campaign to save the election. Republicans also assisted. Establishment Republicans did. Democrats were easily able to exploit mail-in voting, universal mail-in voting under COVID to to get large voter turnout. And the media helped as well. And that's why people like Scott Presler are so important, because he's registering Republicans to vote, which is what y'all need to be doing, ground game. Now, maybe something happened I don't know about, and maybe we'll discover it. Totally open to it. For the time being, I think people's focus needs to be on ground game and activism and grassroots organizing. My point is that I end up with Trump supporters who absolutely detest me, and they call me names, and they don't like me. And maybe that's because I'm a moderate. Maybe it's because I'm lefty. Maybe I'm secretly right wing. But the reality is, all that matters is that I'm just trying to get to the truth. Policy is something else. Let's talk about it for a second. I'll give you a good example. If someone breaks a bone, I believe that we as humans can use tax money. We can pitch in and make sure those people are helped. I like the idea. I like the idea of universal health care supplemented by private insurance for more complicated scenarios. And that means you'll get a level. It's like universal basic health care. That's the best way to put it. We're not going to pay all your bills. We're not going to put you in a mansion. We'll cover a little bit. I like the idea. The problem is you then give the government centralized authority and they start saying things like, based on race, we're going to deny treatment, and that becomes hard. So when we're talking about policy opinion, I'll straight up say my policy opinions lean left. When we're talking about truth and facts, it just so happens that the media lies a whole lot. And these leftists are getting everything wrong because of it. And because I tell them they're wrong, because they are, they say I'm right wing. That's the nature of the world we live in. As for now, Joe Biden sucks. Everybody knows it. Unless you're lying to yourself, because even, was it 21% of Democrats are like, nah, I don't know about this guy. Yet there are people still clinging to the cult. I hope they wake up. In the meantime, we'll just keep on listening to Let's Go Brandon. I'll try out these new Bose headphones, and I will play some sick tunes. Thanks for hanging out. Next segment's coming up at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. and we'll see y'all there.